Honestly, I can't remember the last time I fell for someone and coffee wasn't involved. Probably never. Because it all started with coffee, with one caramel latte that smelled sharp, like an autumn morning after the rain, and with the smile of the girl who ordered it every single day. Her name was Nelly. She'd walk into the coffee shop like it was a museum, unhurried, focused, a little detached, and she always ordered the exact same thing. No variations, no hesitation. Caramel latte, please. I remember thinking, oh, another routine girl, another one looking for warmth in a paper cup. And then she looked up, and that was it. I was screwed. I'm Jack, 28 years old, a barista who takes the writing on the cups way too seriously. My coworkers call me the Oracle with a Sharpie because I don't just pour coffee, I give people diagnoses. Like, your coffee today is hotter than your ex. Or, if life doesn't give you coffee, pretend it's tea and keep going. They laugh, but the customers come back. And I stay in this box that smells of espresso with the black keys playing slightly off-key from the speaker above the machine. And then there was her, Nelly, with a notebook tucked under her arm, wearing a sweater that looked like Grandma knit it with love and a cat. Her eyes were the color of an evening latte, and her hair smelled of paint and shampoo. I started writing for her. At first, just silly stuff. You're looking like a Monday that's finally worth loving today. Then something warmer. The caramel isn't the main thing. The main thing is who's holding it. She'd laugh when she'd read them, and I'd pretend it was just marketing. But damn, I knew every curve of her smile, the way you know the perfect milk temperature for a latte, 150 degrees, no higher. Sometimes I'd catch her eye across the crowd. She'd be sitting by the window, sketching someone, maybe me, I didn't know. When she looked away, her lips would lightly touch the rim of the cup. In that moment, I wanted to be that cup. And that sounds totally insane, even for a barista. One day I wrote, I know you're thinking about me too. I don't know why. Maybe it was a rainy day and I wanted a little warmth. Maybe it was because I couldn't pretend it was just coffee between us anymore. She read it, looked up, and my throat went dry even with a whole pitcher of milk right next to me. She didn't say anything, just smiled, shortly, like she was putting a period at the end of a sentence I hadn't finished yet. The next morning she came in again, and when I handed her the coffee, she gave me back the old cup, my message from yesterday, but with a new line written on it. Maybe I am. What's next? I almost knocked over the syrup dispenser. It was the best unpaid-for moment of my life. From then on, we started our secret correspondence. No texting, no emojis, just a Sharpie, coffee cups, and short phrases that smelled of coffee and nerves. Want to grab a coffee not across the counter? Maybe. She'd sign off with caramel hearts. I'd answer with black dots, like a cryptogram. We were practically talking, without words, and it was dangerous, because when people are silent, the feelings get louder. And then, she didn't come in. One day, 2, 3. I jumped at every sound of the door, but instead of her, regular people walked in with phones in their hands and the phrase, latte no foam. And I felt the coffee shop turning back into just a job. Empty like a cup after the last sip. They say the smell of coffee is healing. That's a lie, because here I am behind the counter, inhaling the aroma of freshly ground Arabica, and inside it's a desert. No foam, no sugar, no her. 5 days passed. 5 mornings without caramel latte, please. I started to think maybe she changed her mind or met someone who didn't hide behind an espresso machine. On the 6th day, I wrote on a cup, whoever this coffee is for, may they find someone who's worth their patience. And just then, the door opened. She was standing there, a little late, with the wind in her hair and paint on her fingers. She looked like she'd just walked out of a painting someone forgot to finish. Caramel latte, she said, just like always, and smiled. I thought you ran off to Italy to paint coffee rings on glass, I mumbled, hiding my relief under irony. Almost. Just a deadline and 3 sleepless nights. she shrugged. "But I couldn't leave you without inspiration, could I?" I poured the milk, but my hands were shaking like a student on test day. When I gave her the coffee, she wrote on it right in front of me, "I dreamed about you and your Sharpie." "That's a new level of attachment," I said, smiling. "You're the first person who made me wait for coffee more than I waited for love," she replied, holding my gaze. From that day, we stopped just kidding around. Her notes got warmer, almost admissions. Mine got more careful because I was scared I'd say too much and ruin everything. Maybe you're just the coffee I can't function without. Maybe I'm just the barista who doesn't want to go to sleep without your latte. We flirted across the paper. The world around us disappeared. Even my boss noticed and said, "Jack, you're pouring love instead of espresso. People dig it." I just smiled. Maybe it's just in the air. One morning, I came in early. The quiet was still in the room, smelling of fresh croissant and milk. There was an envelope on the bar, white, with my name in familiar manager's handwriting. I opened it slowly, like I already knew what was inside. "Jack, starting Monday, you're being transferred to the Central Cafe. Bigger salary, new team. Congratulations." I read it twice. The irony was that I should have been happy. This was what I'd been working toward. But something tightened inside, not with excitement, but with emptiness. For the first time in my life, I didn't want to wake up for a new job. I didn't want to leave the scent of caramel she left on the bar, her quick "good morning," and her habit of adjusting her hair when she was embarrassed. I didn't know how to tell her I was leaving, so I did what I did best. I wrote. That day, her coffee was without caramel, no sweetness. Just one phrase in black Sharpie on a white cup. "I won't be here anymore, but if you ever want to talk, meet me at the fountain in the square tonight." I handed the cup to the waiter and left without looking back. But that evening I was still there, by the fountain, with 2 coffees in my hands. The wind carried the scent of cinnamon from the nearby bakery. Every person passing by looked like her. Every glance made my heart race, like a coffee grinder about to overheat. I was starting to think she wouldn't show up. But then I saw her. She walked slowly, in a light dress the color of the evening sky. On her lips that same smile that made me forget my own name. "I knew you'd come," I said, trying to sound calm. "You predicted it yourself," she replied, nodding at the cup with the writing. We stood there among the crowd, laughing, simply because we couldn't stop. Her laugh was softer than the foam on a latte. I held up the coffee to her, already cold, but she took it like it was the most valuable thing in the world. "It's cold," I said, a little sheepishly. "But we're not," she answered, and took a sip. A moment hung between us, light, like the steam over fresh coffee. I looked at her and finally said what I'd needed to say for a long time. "You smell like caramel and watercolors. And I don't want that smell to disappear." She took another sip and looked right into my eyes. "Then don't let it go." I took her hand, warm like fresh pastry, and we stood by the fountain, where the sound of the water blended with the evening city. People walked past, and I realized sometimes a beginning is just 2 hands that don't want to let go.